Good afternoon, friends. My name is Jonathan Moyer, and I am one of the Associate Directors of Music here at the Church of the Covenant, and it gives me pleasure to welcome you here into the sanctuary for our Tuesday noon Organ Plus concert on a beautiful day here in Cleveland. Thank you for those who are here live in the sanctuary for navigating our kind of maze of construction work that is taking place around the building. There are doors that come into the sanctuary, so thank you for minding that as we kind of tidy and take care of a few needs that we have around the building. Important things that need to be done to make it continually accessible to all people. We'd like to also welcome those who can join us online via our live stream. We welcome you here for this moment of music, and we hope you can enjoy it with all of us. If this is your first time joining us either online or here in person, and you would like to learn more about events that take place here at the church, please consider filling in our visitor survey. We have them here on the music stands and in the narthex. If you put your name and email address, we can add you to our weekly email newsletter that can inform you about these concerts and other services here at the church. For those who are joining us online, please visit our website, covenantweb.org, where you can learn more about our email and other events here at the church. We welcome our artist today, Kingsley Wood, who is a student at the Oberlin Conservatory of Music, who will be presenting a very special work for us today in its entirety. I will speak about it in just a moment. You can read about his life and his accomplishments in your program, as well as look ahead to some other events that will be taking place here at the church in the coming weeks. On May 12th, this is a Sunday afternoon, we will have a special organ concert here in the sanctuary at 4 p.m. by our music department intern for this season, Uzziah Wales, who will be presenting, among other things, the complete Organ Symphony No. 2 by Louis Vierne here on the chancel organ. So this will be a grand concert that you will want to join us for. Following today's concert, please join us here. I think we're going to meet here at the front of the sanctuary rather than the narthex. So we will bring the cookies forward since this seems to be a more convenient exit for most of us at the end of the day. But join us here for a moment after the concert where we can greet our artist and enjoy some of the freshly prepared cookies by one of our volunteers here at the church. Now, before our concert begins, I'd like to just offer a few brief words about the work we are about to hear. This is an unusual piece, and it's very exciting to be able to hear it in its entirety. Olivier Messiaen was a French composer who served the Church of La Trinité in Paris for over 60 years. He is a world-renowned composer and a very influential pedagogue and musician of the 20th century, one of the leading French artists of this period. He composed this work entitled Messe de la Pentecôte, or Mass for Pentecost, in the late 1940s. And so it's kind of a middle period work in his oeuvre, his collection of pieces. And as he said in his writings, it kind of represented the development of his musical language up to this point. For those who may be experiencing this music for the first time, you will be hearing a very unique language of music. It is kind of apropos that the work centers on the sacred rite or liturgical holiday we refer to as Pentecost. Within the Christian tradition, this is an observance that reminds us of the descent of the Holy Spirit into our midst. The biblical story is centered around a gathering of early Christians, and in the story it describes the descent of tongues of fire, this kind of symbol that represents a kind of new language. Within the biblical story, the participants began to speak in many different languages. Today, this represents a whole season of the liturgical year, the season of Pentecost, in which we celebrate the many gifts of the Spirit, a spirit of freedom, the spirit of communication. So literally the first movement of this work is entitled The Tongues of Fire. And I think it is an invitation to us to explore this very unique language of music that Messiaen developed. What is this language? Well, Messiaen was inspired mostly from the effects and the structures that we find within the natural world. This informed all of his music, all of his structures, from melody to harmony and rhythm. His melodies are infused with the colors and sounds of birds, of natural things, of drops of water, of fire, of wind, of the kinds of things that you would experience within walking in the natural landscape. His harmonies remove the kind of expectations that we have for the harmonies we hear in hymnody or more traditional forms of music. Think of them more as colors that are very complex and sometimes very simple. It is kind of the oral equivalent of a very bright and sunny day, an illuminated window, or perhaps a single simple flower in which you see. And if you listen to it in this way, you can discover many beautiful, sometimes astounding, sometimes harsh, sometimes mysterious experiences within the sounds that you hear in his harmony. His rhythms are infused with the movements of nature that are not always structured like we humans like to do. We like to structure our time evenly in marches and in dances and in songs. But Messiaen wanted to take the freedom that we find within the movement of tree branches or the flow of water, the waves of the sea, the movements of animals in our midst, that may be more free than we normally experience within our own ordered, structured world of time. This is his language in which he built a great and complex world of musical expression. A couple of things for you to think about in these 5 movements. As I said, the first movement is literally an invitation. This invites us into the world, the language, this new language of music. The offertoire, the second movement, is the longest within the Mass, and he entitles it Things Visible and Invisible. These words come from one of the creeds that are said in the church liturgy, the Nicene Creed, and I think it is more indicative of the mysteries of faith, the mysteries we find, the things we may not understand. But nevertheless, we try to explore them and we try to experience them. So this particular section of music is filled with mysterious sounds. Sounds that are very high in distance, sounds that are deep and loud, and then others that just invite us into a kind of mysterious world of sound and color. The third movement is one of the shorter movements of the work. It is called the Consecration, and the subtitle is The Gift of Wisdom. Perhaps the most mysterious of the whole work. But if you listen for 3 distinct phrases of music, 3 distinct ideas that are presented, perhaps there is a Trinitarian element to this, but these 3 distinct ideas will be repeated, and we can find perhaps an order to these statements that seek to communicate the wisdom of Pentecost to us. The communion, the 4th movement, is a very special movement, one of my favorites. And the communion, is the central act of liturgical life within the Roman and Christian faith. The moment that we receive the communion. And what does Messiaen use? He uses the sounds of birds and of water and of the forest to invite us into a deeper understanding of God, literally the communion, the closest point that we come within the liturgical act, in the liturgical rite together. Mission uses the natural elements to speak to us. And you will hear all kinds of fantastical creatures. And towards the end, there was a very special moment in which we hear the highest pipe within the organ and its lowest sounded at the same time, a kind of symbol of the whole cosmos, from the highest glittering star to the deepest earthquake within the earth. And then the final movement. Just fasten on your seatbelt, because this is kind of a tornado of wind. This represents the power of the Spirit, the power of the Spirit to move us, the power of the Spirit to give us life. And you will hear this within these amazing gestures on the organ. In the very center of the piece, he features a chorus he calls of larks that sing and they fly, and you can hear them whirling and flying through the air amongst this amazing backdrop of rhythm and sound. And then the rhythm and the power and the technique of the organ just overwhelm us to this magnificent conclusion. Yes, this is a new language, but it is a wonderful language that I invite you all to participate in, to open yourselves to experience as we hear this amazing work of Olivier Messiaen. So now let us welcome Kingsley Wood.